Hello guys, and welcome back to another video. Today we're gonna get down and dirty, get into the nitty-gritty, and do a little tag. My bestie Andrea, her Instagram is Read with Dra, had sent this tag in our group chat. It is originally by Olive's Book Nook, and I will have all of the questions listed down below, but we are gonna go through, really just show you the array of books that I read, how I feel about them, answer some questions so you guys can get to know me. And I am immediately tagging all of you, even if you just answer the questions down below. I want to know your answers, so let me have them. The first question, which of course, for a lot of these I tried to just have one book, but sometimes I can't control myself, is what got you into reading? And like, I have had 4 very distinct phases of reading in my life. Really young, like when I first started reading, middle school, high school, and now as an adult, and each time there's been like a big chunk of time where I didn't read. So originally getting into reading as a kiddo, it was my girl Junie B. She got me right on into reading. I read all of her books. I had all of her books. These were what I was picking up the latest Junie B at the Scholastic Book Fair. These are the new covers. Sadly, my dad had a flood in his basement, and a lot of my books, my Pokemon cards, a lot of really great things got destroyed. But I did, for Christmas last year, get all of the Junie B series. And like, they're like over there. I got the box set of both, like the kindergarten and first grade ones, and I reread them all at the beginning of the year. And Junie B really shaped me as a person, and then fell off reading for a while, and then picked it back up with the classic of Harry Potter. And as you can see, Harry Potter means a great deal to me. J.K. Rowling is a piece of shit. We will start there, and we'll just do this. We'll cover her name because we don't like her. But the world of Harry Potter, love it. Also, my Harry Potter tattoos, it's a way to show my love of Harry Potter without giving her any money. But it shaped me as a person. Anything like bad that's ever happened in my life, I always turn to Harry Potter, because Hogwarts is always there to welcome you home. Literally, when my mom died, I was like, Harry gets me. He knows what it's like. But yeah, love Harry Potter. And then fell off for a while again. Still was basically just reading the Harry Potters. And then I, in high school, picked up this book, Identical, by Ellen Hopkins. I don't really know if this is even really appropriate for a high schooler to read. Maybe, probably. This is in the YA section. So yeah, I really fell down the rabbit hole of Ellen Hopkins. Read all of her books. I just recently, yeah, it's like right here, her newest book. I haven't read it yet, but I do like that her books aren't this like short square, or it's not a square, but like this short chunky anymore. They're like regular size books now. Whoa. But I fell down the rabbit hole of Ellen Hopkins, read all of her books, loved her, loved them. I still love them, and all of her books are written in phrase, and they're all have like a bazillion and a half trigger warnings, so make sure you search up your trigger warnings before you pick one up. And then what got me back into reading as an adult back in 22 was this book, The Simple Wilds by K.A. Tucker. A YouTuber that I watched who isn't even like a booktuber, Sarah Ray Vargas. She talked about this book in one of her vlogs, and this book is about a gal named Kala. And she doesn't really have a relationship with her dad. He lives in Alaska, and she lives, I believe, in Canada. And she gets a call that he is sick and she needs to go up there, and there is romance in this book, but I would say it's more so like women's fiction. But it's really, really good. I really loved it, and it is what definitely got me back into reading as an adult. I've been hooked ever since. What book genres do I read the most? I would say my top genres are thriller, romance, and contemporary fiction. Those are like the 3 genres that I gravitate to. I love. They're wonderful. And then that's followed up by the question of what genres do I read the least. That would be fantasy or sci-fi. I've read Fourth Wing there, and I've read, obviously Harry Potter is fantasy. Does dystopian count in sci-fi? I do like dystopian books, like The Hunger Games, The Measure, that type of stuff. But like a true like deep, heavy fantasy, you will not catch me reading that. It is not happening unless it's for some sort of challenge. My husband really wants to do, at the end of the year, we swap our favorite books of the year, and he reads mainly like high fantasy and sci-fi. So there's that. But those, like, okay, this might sound bad, but like, this book is not beautifully written. It's not that, like, it's like easy to read. All of the books that you're going to see me talk about today, for the most part, are pretty easy reads, and that's what I like. I don't want reading to be like work. I'm going to be honest with you. You know, like English class in school, when I was in middle school, I had to, during my study hall, have an extra help reading or English class because I'm just like not that great at it. So I don't want a book that's going to be more difficult to read. I like don't want it to be written super flowery or beautifully or with like I don't want like paragraphs of description, and I feel like that's how a lot of fantasy books go, unless it is YA, and that's just not for me. Like, I love that. If that's for you, that's great. I wish I was that girl, but I'm just really not. So there's that. And then sci-fi, I just for the most part think is boring. I do like, the other thing that's really weird is when it comes to other media, like TV, movies and stuff like that, I predominantly like romance and fantasy. Like, those would probably be like the things I like to watch the most, like TV shows and movies and stuff. Is like, I like fantasy, I like Star Wars, like, so I like sci-fi, I like dystopian, I like romance. You will not catch me watching a thriller movie or a horror movie. That's literally never gonna happen. I don't want to do that, but they're my favorite books. Make that make sense? I don't get it, but that's just how it's gotta be. The next is the book that I tell everybody is my favorite. I have all these books like laid out over here. You'll see there's a bookmark in it because my husband is currently reading it, but that is Hidden Pictures by Jason Ruckelek. I'm pretty sure that's how you say it. He has the pronunciation on his Instagram, and I'm pretty sure it's Ruckelek. And that is this book. I read this in 2023. It is called Hidden Pictures, and this is a thriller horror book, and it is about a girl named Mallory, and she has kind of like a shady past, and she gets a job as like a nanny for this couple's 5-year-old son, Teddy. And he loves to draw, and then throughout the book his drawings get more and more sinister, and you're uncovering the mystery as to what's going on. And it is so spooky, so good. Love it. Highly recommend. And that is the book that I will die on the hill that is my favorite book. The next is, what book have I reread the most? I really don't reread books, if I'm being honest. Like, reading books is, I feel like I would potentially try to reread more books if like my job was related to books, but it is not. So if I have a few hours to read, I'm not going to spend it rereading a story I already know. I'm going to read one of the like hundreds of books that I like haven't read that I want to experience. But I would say Harry Potter is probably the book that I have reread the most. I think I've reread them like 3 times. So I have reread them the most, but I'm not really a big rereader. Are you a big rereader? How do you justify spending the time rereading a book when there's so many books you haven't read that you want to read? I feel like that's kind of hypocritical because I am like a notorious show rewatcher. Like, my like background show is Big Bang Theory, and I have that show on 24/7. I go to sleep to that show. When it ends, I just restart it. But there's not like other shows I want to watch, so maybe that's like the difference. But there's just so many books that I want to read that I just don't feel like taking the time to reread things I've already read. A book that everyone else loved but you didn't. I honestly get rid of any books that I rate 2 stars or less. So I'll pop up a picture here of some books that I hated. Well, actually, first we'll go over, I still have this book. It's in my pile of books to get rid of, and that is the Twisted series. I read Twisted Love and Twisted Games. I don't like either of them. I don't think they're good. I don't think they're interesting. But I personally don't like spicy books, and these books are quite spicy. So for the most part, most books that have a ton of spice in them aren't going to be for me, and this was not for me. So Twisted Love by Ana Huang, not for your girl. And then we will pop up some others that I think are quite popular. We have Ugly Love by Colleen Hoover. I think that is potentially the worst book I have ever read. Rock, Paper, Scissors by Alice Feeney. Also think that's one of the worst books I've read. There's like other books that I've rated pretty low, but like I don't think that others like them. Like, I also did not like A Novel Love Story by Ashley Poston, but I think that's gotten predominantly bad reviews. I've actually not seen anybody like it. Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies, I DNF'd that book at like 40%. Hated it, thought it was horrible. The Fury by Alex Michaelides, but I don't think most people really liked that one. I don't think it has like stellar reviews. Oh, this is a good one. I don't still have it. The Last Word by Taylor Adams. I have no exit. Absolutely love that book. I thought that The Last Word by Taylor Adams was horrible. I thought it was so corny, and I just did not like it at all, and I would have given it a 1 star, but I was worried that, you know, the whole premise of the book would come back to bite me. Got a little spooked, so I did not, but yeah, I think those are probably the books that I have rated the lowest that others seem to quite enjoy. A book that definitely deserves the hype, I just read this, and it is Binding 13, the first book in the Boys of Tommen series. I really liked it. I gave it a 4 star because it's really long. And I don't love a really, really, really long book, but I do think it's worth the hype. It is really good. I do highly recommend it. Also, of course, Hidden Pictures, worth the hype because it's my favorite book, so she worth the hype. And also, The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. That's also very much so worth the hype. But yeah, I'm going to go with Binding 13 as like the #1 book that I've read that's worth the hype. A book that you read the fastest. I'm going to go with, I very often read a book in one sitting, so it's really hard for me to judge this, but what came to mind first was The Only One Left by Riley Sager, and I do have a signed copy, which is pretty cool. But this book is just crazy. There's about a gazillion twists and turns every 5 seconds, like any Riley Sager book. My best friend's mother-in-law, I just refer to them as the in-laws, she let me borrow her copy. This is not her copy, obviously my copy, to read. And this is the book, because originally the first Riley Sager book that I read was A House Across the Lake, and I did not like that book. But then she had me read this book, and I was like, okay, I gotta give this guy another chance. And then I've read all of his books now, but this one was amazing. Loved it. I literally read this in one setting. I was terrified. I was gooped and gagged. It was great, wonderful. Read it in one sitting. Books I think deserve more hype. I picked up 3 really, really, really random books. Actually 4. One is going to be Listen for the Lie by Amy Tintera. This book is so good. I have learned that I do really like a podcast element in my thriller book, and this was no exception. This was really, really, really good. It is a girl named Lucy, I believe. Yeah, Lucy, and she had her best friend Savvy, and Savvy ends up murdered, and everybody thinks that Lucy's the one who did it. There is no proof. She has amnesia, and so she moves away, and then she comes back to town for her grandma's birthday party, and there is a podcaster there trying to uncover what happened, and it was just so good. Really, really liked it. So that's like a thriller. We have a YA thriller. This one's called The One That Got Away with Murder by Trish Lundy. This gives me the same energy as A Good Girl's Guide to Murder, but I thought this book was better, in my opinion. So if you liked A Good Girl's Guide to Murder, like the pacing, the vibes, that level of like spookiness, because not everybody can handle like real spooky stuff, like, you know, good old Riley. But this was a very, very good book. This is about a girl, you know, I never remember names, Lauren, and she moves to like a new town because of something that happened, and then she becomes friends with these boys, Robbie and Trevor, and both of their girlfriends have gone missing and or were killed, and everybody thinks it's them, but they're like rich and like of power, so they aren't getting in trouble for anything. Lauren's trying to uncover what really happened. So this is a really good one. Another one is One Italian Summer by Rachel Searle, and honestly, all of Rachel Searle's books, my sister tabbed this one, she read it, and I was like, tab it up while you're at it so I can see all of your tabs. But this book is, just so good. It is about a girl named Katie, and her mom dies, and they were supposed to be going on this trip to Italy together as like the last hurrah, 'cause her mom was dying, but her mom died like just short of going on the trip. So Katie goes on the trip without her. It involves magical realism, and she runs into like her mom as a teenager or a young adult, and discovers like just so much about her mom and their like love for each other. And I read this in a hotel room in Italy, sobbing in the middle of the night. Okay, then lastly is Josh and Hazel's Guide to Not Dating by Christina Lauren. I know Christina Lauren is very popular. I loved this book, and I feel like nobody talks about this one. Everybody talks about Love in Other Words, The Paradise Problem, like the more like popular newer ones. This book was so good, so cute. I was like LOLing funny. Hazel is hilarious. It is about these two people, Hazel and Josh. They've been friends since high school, or since college, and 10 years after college, Josh's girlfriend cheats on him, and Hazel's there to like help him through it, and friends to lovers. Cutie pie. Loved it. A book I usually recommend, that would be The Measure. I don't want to take it out because it's holding up my lights, if I'm being honest with you, but The Measure is like a dystopian book, and it is about, you're living in like the present time, and everybody gets a box in the mail with a string, and the length of the string determines how long your life is going to be, and the whole book is following like 6 different characters and how they handle this new information, and it lives rent-free in my mind. And then another book that I always recommend is this one, Hidden Pictures, of course. A book I thought I was gonna hate. This is a fun one. This would be Things We Never Got Over by Lucy Score. This is a chunk-tastic romance, but I ate this up. There are quite a few steamy scenes, if I recall, but to be honest, I just like through them because I don't really care. But I really did like the story of this book. I went into it thinking this is just going to be a big, fat, long smut book, and it wasn't. It had a lot of story in here as well. I do have the others in the series I have not read yet because everybody hates the pink one, the second one. Things We Hide from the Light, and so I'm scared, so I've been avoiding it. But I did really like this, despite thinking that I would not. A book that made me cry. A lot of books make me cry. This is the most recent book to make me cry. The Last Chance Library by Freya Sampson. I read this 2 nights ago and sobbed in my bed reading this. Like, ugly tears. My husband looks over at me and is like, you good? And I'm like, no, I'm not. But this is about a lonely librarian named June Jones. The whole time I'm reading it, this is who I'm thinking of, okay? But she is working as this librarian in this library after her mom dies. We see a theme here of dead moms, but she is working at this library, and something happens where the library is being threatened to close, and it's like a fun group of eclectic characters fighting together to save the library, and it's just so wholesome, so good, so cute. A book I wish I could read again. Honestly, most of Riley Sager's books, besides The House Across the Lake and Final Girls, I wish I could read again. I just grabbed The Home Before Dark. This one and Listen for the Lie are both like up there. And I'm trying to like also show different books because truly I would pick this one. I would pick Hidden Pictures, but I'm trying to not reuse the same books. So Home Before Dark, this book, I was so scared reading this. Like, haunted house books really get me good. It's about Maggie, and her parents move into this Victorian estate, and they fled the estate in the dead of the night, and her dad wrote this book called House of Horrors about like it being haunted, and now Maggie moves into the house to try to restore it, and spooky things keep happening, and yeah, it's just spooktastic, okay? Spooktastic. A book that has your favorite characters. I feel like, which book was I picking for that? Yeah, this one I think, right? Yeah. It's gonna be The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, which I think is like probably controversial because I don't think you're supposed to like Evelyn, but like I kind of like her. I think she's kind of badass, if I'm being honest with you. So this is also the most, Chris was just talking about Hidden Pictures being a stiff book. This is a stiff book, my guy. But I think that I just love the characters. I love Evelyn Hugo. This book, so good. This book is about Evelyn Hugo. She is a Hollywood starlet, and there's a girl named Monique, and she works for a magazine. And for some unknown reason to you, Evelyn has never spoken really about her life. She chooses to tell her story to Monique. You go through learning about all of her husbands, and like, yeah, you go through and you have like all of her husbands, and she's telling her story, and this book was just so incredible. Next is a book where you wish you could live in the city, and I'm gonna pick When in Rome by Sarah Adams. Had to mention her. She's one of my favorite authors. I love her little cute short cutie pie romances. This is about a girl named Amelia. She's a pop star, and she ends up in Rome, Kentucky, and it's this cute little small town. It's like a cute little small town romance. Come on. It's a small town with a bakery. I want to live there, okay? It's so good. Books that can get you out of a reading slump. I have 2 things. One is Sarah Adams. All of her books, I always like to have some. She doesn't write as many books as the next author, so I don't have as many, but I do have all of her books that I read to get myself out of a slump if I'm feeling slumpy, because I know it's going to be 4 or 5 stars and I'm going to love it. And the next is, I think, you guys can probably see this coming. Anybody can. That would be Miss Frida. I have most of her books. I've not read most of them because girl be turning out books like a new book every 3 months. But I have read all of these. Did I like all of these? No. This one's probably my favorite of them. The Inmate by Frida McFadden. And then probably The Locked Door is my next favorite. Then Never Lie. And then we have The Coworker. I've also read the Housemaid trilogy. I have Ward D. That might be all the ones I've read thus far, but these were all on a shelf together. But everybody knows Frida McFadden's books are popcorn thrillers. Super quick, super easy. You can bust right through them. Again, I usually read them in like one sitting, and then I feel really accomplished. And yeah, another thing is graphic novels or manga. I do have some way up there that I'm not going to grab, but also I feel like reading anything short and quick that you can read in one sitting makes you feel like accomplished. So it's easier to keep going with your reading. The next is a book that I think everybody should read. That would be The Measure by Nikki Erlich. That book, like I said, it just lives currently rent-free in my head. And I abso-freaking-lutely loved it. Another one, if I can get this out, that I think everybody should read if you can, is Bright Young Women by Jessica Knoll. This is a take on the Ted Bundy murders, but is told from the perspective of the victims, A, and B, it never mentions that piece of shit loser human being a single time. It just refers to him as the defendant, but you can like piece it together. And the fact that this book is so powerful and so moving without even mentioning him is, I think, like a sign of good, like a good book. And I think it's very powerful and very, very impactful. Another one that's like really holding up my lid, so I don't want to pull it out, is Ask for Andrea by Noelle Illy. And that book is also a thriller, and it is told from the point of view of the victims after they've already died. So they're like ghosts. It's so interesting, so good. Highly recommend. Next is a book that would make a great movie. So the thing is I wouldn't really go out of my way to watch a thriller or horror movie unless I read the book. Then I would be like, well, I gotta know, it's for science. So I do think Hidden Pictures by Jason Rekulic, any Riley Sager book, period, all of them would be fantastic TV shows or movies, obviously. I do think Fourth Wing would make a very good movie, and probably ACOTAR. I've never read it because I don't read those type of books, but I think they would probably all make good movies. And then The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. I think this would make a fascinating, amazing, wonderful movie, and I'd be the first one there. As well as The Wishing Game by Meg Schaefer. I see it sitting over there, and I think that could also be quite a good movie. The next question is a book I wish everyone would try to read, and I feel like that's kind of the same as a book that everyone should read. I'm gonna rescind. I think should read is The Measure, because it really makes you think of like what you would do in those situations, and it really makes you like think introspectively, because a big concept in that book is like discrimination against long stringers and short stringers, and people not wanting to hire the short stringers because they're going to die. They're not allowed to join the military because it's too much of an like a liability, and how that affects society, whether people choose to look at their string or not. Should it be mandatory that you have to look at your string? And it really makes you think critically about things. And as somebody who has had like my mom, for example, died when she was 48, so she would be a short stringer, and imagining in a world where like we knew that and people treated her poorly because of that, or like say I was a short stringer and like I couldn't find love because nobody wanted to date me, like so many concepts are like very important in that book and very interesting, so I think everybody should read that. The other two, Bright Young Women and Ask for Andrea, I think you should try to read them because I think they're very interesting, but I can understand that they may not be for everybody. And the last one is a book you'll never forget. There she is, The Measure by Nikki. That, like I said, that book is currently my Roman Empire. Like, I think about that book. I mean, obviously it's on display in my room, so I walk past it a lot, but like I actually think about that book every day. Not a day goes by that I'm not like, huh. It really got me. It really got me good, and it's another one I think would make a great movie. It's just so good, so wonderful. And yeah, that is everything for this video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up. And comment down below answering these questions. I will have them in the description, so you can just copy and paste them and put your answers. I would love to find some new, possibly 5-star reads from you. So let me know what you think, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye, guys.